Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be back after my TEDx. So I was able to talk about incarceration, and I brought in someone who is so vital and important, and his story just resonates. And it's going to resonate with a lot of our viewers that are, oh, criminal justice reform, and it's not really working. Sometimes the system lets people down, but it doesn't matter. We don't let ourselves down. So my guest is Kelly Mahana, and he is coming from Colorado, and he's going to tell of what brought him onto my show, but basically what brought him into this whole field of reaching back out to people in prison. Kelly, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Thank you. Congratulations on the TEDx too.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's major. You've only been home for 18 months, so congratulations.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks.
So about me, I guess you could say I'm what they would consider a career criminal. I entered the criminal justice system at the age of 10 when I caught my first felony. I grew up in Southern California through my early childhood into my early adolescence. The gang culture is really big out there.
Yeah.
My mom is Mexican. She's the oldest of 8. So all of her family members were entrenched in that culture. That was our lives. I was bounced around from home to home, different family members, and that was just those were my role models, right? And that's what I looked up to. At 10 years old, I stabbed someone, ended up, going to juvenile prison, and then my mom ended up moving to Denver, and I came out here with her at the age of 12, and I was still on juvenile parole from California, but they're like,
At
we don't.
12 years old.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, go ahead, you can leave. And so, anyways, I ended up catching more crimes here in Colorado and going to juvenile prison as well. And then once
Let me
I
ask, how old were you the second time?
15,
Okay.
and then I got out when I was 17, and
Mhm.
I was out for 3 months, and then I got reincarcerated as an adult at 17.
And what was the sentence that first tell us what the crime was the third time and the sentence?
So the one that got me, it was a blanket of charges. So
Mhm.
I had charges in Denver, Arizona, California, and federal charges. But what got me the 60-year sentence was a kidnapping charge, and it wasn't like kidnapping of a child or nothing. It was
I,
yeah, I was an
was it
adult.
related to drugs and gangs?
It was drug
Yeah.
and gang related.
Yeah, and you'd been doing that since 10 years old.
Right.
10
Well,
years
even
old.
before then, like my earliest memories are like one of my uncles going to prison, and then everyone like being so proud of him. And then when he gets out, throwing a barbecue, and just
Yeah.
one of my cousins, getting killed, and another one of my cousins killing someone for the neighborhood, and just like how it was
Wow.
received. It was received as like it was prideful.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times when kids, that's your only example, that's what you aspire to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you aspire to be big in the game. You aspire to, basically make your career out of being a criminal. So I've said this before in, in side conversations with you. I feel like the system let you down. So you were
Yeah.
10 years old. You went to juvenile prison. While you were in juvenile prison, was it conducive to your success? Were they teaching you to be a success?
Absolutely not. So what
I
I
didn't
will
think so.
say is as an adult, I spent my entire sentence in level 4 and maximum security prisons, and juvenile prison is way worse than any level 4 yard I've ever been to.
Tell me about that, because
It's
that's
just
forming your mind. At 10 years old, you are not the person that you're supposed to grow into unless you're being formed to be something.
well, it's crazy, right? You got a bunch of adolescents in there, and we're just going buck wild. So that
Yeah.
we're fighting every day, and we're getting into it with each other all day, every day. But then you have the guards or whatever, the staff,
Mhm.
who are I got jumped by staff, like they
Wow.
came to my cell, they locked the door, and they beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a good experience, like compared to other people's experience. There were staff members who were raping dudes.
Oh
There
my
was
gosh.
a lot of weird stuff that was going on in there. So
Yeah. So, and this is from ages 10 to 12. And
Right.
then we leave and we're on probation. We go to a new state.
Yeah.
But, even when you're an adult, if you're not ready to change wherever you go, like they say, you're there.
Yeah.
So you're 12, you're in a new town, you find new trouble to get into, you're incarcerated again for another couple. All of your formative years, which I'm sure you know, were spent in the carceral system.
Correct.
So, in this carceral system, were you ever rehabilitated, or were there efforts made to rehabilitate you while you were inside?
So, absolutely not, and this is
Yes.
what I say people all the time, like, they force you to get education in juvenile correction,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
not education. I know for me, when we'd go to the education room, we'd be coloring in a coloring book,
Oh
you
man.
know? And then they would tell us, every day they would tell us, like, 85% of you guys are gonna die in prison. 10%.
Wow.
Yeah, they'd be like, 10% of you guys are gonna go to prison, get out, and be a victim of a violent homicide. And then they're like, less than 1% of you will never go to prison, but you will be in and out of county jails and live below the poverty line.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
would tell us that every single day. And the crazy part was, eventually, when I did go to prison as a teenager, throughout my time, I ran into everyone who I was in juvenile prison with. Um,
Oh
and
man.
we all had like football numbers.
Yeah,
It's
huge
either
amounts of time.
it was
Let
either
me
life
ask you this.
or
I know maybe I'm not even going to ask you because you probably already know what I'm going to say, but there's something in psychology, and I'm speaking to the audience, called a self-fulfilling prophecy. That if
yeah,
you tell somebody something so many times, it's going to be in their subconscious. So at these young formative ages, people were giving up on Kelly. People were giving up on Kelly, and Mahana was going to be a number, you
right.
know? So I'm not going to fast forward to what you did with that, but while you're in this long stretch, did you just resign yourself that this was going to be your future?
Yeah, I thought this was gonna be my life. I had 60 years, and I thought that was a long time. When I pulled up to a level
Of
4,
course.
a couple of my homeboys were like, "Dang, bro," because I was affiliated, I was a gang member. I
Uh-huh.
politicked in prison on the level 4 yards my entire
Uh-huh.
sentence, and they were like, "Did you get a bunch of time?" I was like, "Hell yeah, man." They're like, "How much time you got?" And I was like, "60 years." And these dudes were like, "Shit, I wish I had 60 years."
So
You know,
wait. Let me just stop you right there and ask you this. So when you went in, you were how old?
17.
And so 60 years was something like you could get out at 74 maybe, and that was something to look forward to, or
Well, in their mind, so this is what I tell people all the time, like, because there's so many prison talkers now, like
yeah.
prison YouTube channels and prison TikTokers, and I feel like for the most part, a lot of them don't they might accurately portray portions of things, but I feel like a good majority of them put fluff on it,
Oh yeah.
and the truth is like on those level 4 yards, you got dudes who got 2 life sentences without parole plus 1,000 years,
Oh
dudes
yeah.
who got 1,000, for this crime, 200 for that, and, like, so it's
Uh,
not necessarily like you can wrap your head around that 60-year sentence.
no.
It's just like it's a number that compared to everyone else, it seems
It
doable.
seems it seems yeah, 60 years. Well, let me tell you, in the state of Missouri, when you have a life sentence, we all have a face sheet. And I don't know if that's specific to Missouri. When you come down, they're going to give you documentation that states your crime, when you're eligible, if you have a minimum. Like I had an armed criminal action along with my murder. So I was mandatory 5 because it's day for day in this state. So
Right,
I maxed on that and got a new face sheet, but it didn't mean I was going home. My cases were running concurrent.
right.
So I was talking about it. One of my friends I know, because we were in county, she had 2 life sentences plus I think 400 years. So when it says your maximum release date in Missouri, if you have a life sentence, it's 9/9/9999, a date that never exists.
Yeah, that's
So
here.
yeah, so I know about the people that, 60 years, that would be something to hope for. However, I want to know, in your mind, when they gave you that 60 years, did you think you would make it to 70 plus to get out, or what was the percentage on that 60 years?
I never thought I was ever gonna get out of prison again. So it's 85%, right?
That's same here,
Um,
yes.
but that's with good time. you know?
Oh, and
And
you
I
never had good time.
exactly, you know,
Okay.
I wasn't like a model inmate, I didn't go
Mhm,
to education, I didn't get no degrees, I didn't find Jesus, I didn't find religion of any
mhm.
sort in prison. Like, when I got 60 years, that was I considered that was the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And even if, by some stretch of the imagination, I was able to walk that 60 down, I didn't know how I was gonna get I did get more time while I was incarcerated,
Wow.
because I just did not care.
Yeah. Because you had such a long time in front of you. And let me tell you, I talk about when I first came, it wasn't that I didn't care. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what has happened to my life?" Like you have to adjust. And what's sad is prison has a learning curve too. So I kind of want to now start talking about the reason I had Kelly come on, and I'm so grateful and thankful that you did, is because would you be comfortable with me saying you're the stereotype?
It's true, yeah, it is
Yeah,
true.
he's the stereotype. And then let's fast forward to you got a lot of play with a prison lawyer, someone that came and helped you. You got a lot of play with some, new was it like new legislation, but you ended up going home.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
tell us
so
about what happened when you got home. Now, this is the man audience, and I'm so thankful you're tuned in because not everybody has the same story where they wake up one day and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to jail. This I never thought this would happen." You already knew this was going to happen, and if you didn't, they were putting it in your head. So now you get to come home by a miracle. A
yeah.
miracle. Now you can start with the miracle, but let's hear about how the stereotype of someone that everybody probably gave up on. Let's get to how it ended up.
Yeah,
The
so
good
real quick, I
parts.
wanna touch on this because a
Yeah.
friend of mine had a life without, and he had been down for, 20 plus years. He turned into a jailhouse attorney trying to get out from under his life sentence.
Yeah.
He'd exhausted all his appeals. Well, anyways, we'd be at the rec yard doing pull-ups every day, and he's like, "Yo, bro, shoot me your legal box. I can get you some love."
Oh man.
Finally, after about 3 months, I shot him my legal box. He did he filed a motion on my behalf, and, so what it is in the state of Colorado, say, Syreta, you and I are co-defendants,
Mhm.
we commit the same crime, I get 60 years and you get probation, that's
Yeah.
disproportionate.
Absolutely.
So the sentences have to be, within a
Compliment to each other.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not just for you and I as co-defendants, it's also like, what is the average sentence range for people like where my crime was committed in Denver?
Uh-huh.
People who have that exact same crime, what is the average sentence for them? And then it goes into co-defendants. And so what happened was one of my co-defendants was a career criminal at the time of the offense,
Mhm.
was already on felony probation, was actually on a bond for another felony,
Wow.
and had already accepted like a 18-year sentence to DOC for so a bunch of different crimes, a rap sheet, a mile high.
Yeah.
Um, but they ended up, you know, cooperating, and
Mhm.
so they got probation,
And you got 60 years.
and I got 60 years. So, what ended up happening was the judge reduced my sentence by 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're still with 30, so keep going. We
Yeah,
still
so
have 30.
I'm still with 30, but now I have almost 9 years in at this time. I didn't
Okay.
change none of my behaviors. A few more years down the line, one of my other co-defendants, their family had been saving up for, like, 10 years straight, got an attorney, um, and got their loved one immediately got released.
Oh man.
But
So,
it affected me again as well, and it knocked 10 more years off of my sentence.
wow. So
And
now we're
so
at 20, we have 9 in, and if you're 85%er, that means 17.
right.
So, yeah.
So I ended up doing 13 straight.
Okay.
I was able to get out because in Colorado, they have this program called therapeutic communities where, if you're able to get there, and two, once you complete it, you automatically get to put in for parole and community corrections. And so
Okay.
I did that. I got denied for both numerous times. And then one of the counselors at that program called the director of the halfway house I ended up going to and
Mhm.
was like, "Look, man, how many people do you say yes to every day that don't make it?"
Ooh.
You know, If
That's
this guy,
powerful.
yeah. And she just told her, and I was right there for the call. She was like, look, man, if he doesn't make it, then you were right. But
But give
what's
him a
the,
chance.
yeah. And
How
so
long had you been in the halfway house when this happened?
I wasn't in the halfway house.
Oh, you were still in prison.
Yeah, this was to get me
Trying to
to the
get
halfway
out.
house. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now you knew you weren't ready to get out. You just wanted some freedom.
I wasn't even trying to get out. That was
Yeah, you were
that was
just
my
throwing some.
yeah, that was my case manager and like the therapist from that program that were doing all the work for me. I was still
Uh-huh.
getting high. I was tattooing. I was selling drugs. Like I was still doing prison stuff
One
because
second. Imagine that he was tattooing. Imagine that. Go ahead, Kelly.
I just couldn't imagine getting out of prison. Like it just never seemed real. Even when they kept dropping numbers off my sentence, it just never clicked with me. It did not feel real. And so yeah, even when I got out, I never signed no papers. I never had a date. I really thought my case manager was just telling me that to try and pacify me. Um,
Oh,
but then I go to community corrections and I'm 100% affirmed that I am who I've always been and that it's only a matter of time before I end up dead or back in prison.
who's telling you this? You or the
I,
people?
I was telling myself this.
Yeah. So tell me about that first day. That first day they've walked you out. You already said that you threw some drugs to somebody else.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the day I was actually getting out, I threw up my pack. I had a pack of drugs. I threw it to one of my homeboys, um, because I didn't. It wasn't real until that moment when they're like, "No, you're getting released. Like, here's your
Yeah.
pack out.
Just a moment.
Like, here's your clothes. Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah. This you know what? That light betrays me. I'm gonna have to talk to the bank. All right,
Yeah,
go go ahead. They just sponsored this room, but yeah. So it's so unreal. You get to the front,
I
you
get
get through
out.
the gates.
I get to the halfway house. I walk in there. The first person I see is an enemy from prison who we'd had
Oh no.
a lot of problems over the years, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yep, I'm going right back." He approaches me. He tells me he's no longer involved in that lifestyle. He'd given his life to God, and there's no politics and no problems, and invites me to church.
Now, in this moment, do you feel God working?
I don't know.
You know, you're just like,
In
let,
that
let me
moment,
tell you, if I can read your mind, where you're like, he's a punk now. And
basically, yeah,
I know it. Okay, but
yeah.
keep going.
Um,
Because you are
well,
hard. You are hardcore. You are still on the streets. In your mind, you're going back. So
that's
he's a
just
punk.
all I thought I was ever gonna be, and that's
Yeah.
not even. That's just who I thought I was. And now
Yeah.
you have to understand. At this point, I'm a 32-year-old man and I don't have any work experience. I don't have any formal education. I
Yeah.
didn't have familial support. The only
Right.
thing I had was my gang in that culture, in that environment.
Yeah.
And so my thing was like, all right, I'm gonna get with a couple of the guys out here and figure out how we could get more dope inside and like make
Oh,
things
man.
smoother for. Um,
Yeah.
and thankfully the halfway house I went to was treatment based, and I
Hmm.
had a great therapist, and for whatever reason, I just started being honest with myself in therapy, and I would say like, "Look, man, I'm scared. I'm scared that when I get out of the halfway house, I am going to go back to prison because I don't know how to survive out here. I
Yeah.
don't have any viable skills. Like, what am I good at? I'm good at selling dope. I'm good at kicking down doors, playing poker, like hustles, like prison hustle type stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I'm gonna be successful out here.
And I'll just touch back on this. No one taught you that while you're in prison. No one took the time to say, hey, listen, you're most likely, time's getting dropped off your sentence, but even before that, laws might change. You're
Right.
going to re enter society like 85% of the people that are incarcerated. So,
Right.
do we want the Kelly that goes to the halfway house and is ready to bang? Or do we want the Kelly that's going to come out and change? So, Kelly right now is showing you that the stereotype, because the story gets better, is not always predetermined to continue this cycle, but you had to make those decisions yourself. So if
Well,
we want to talk about criminal justice reform, it starts inside. Now I'm done.
Well, and the other thing to go along with that is like you'll meet people who are like, "Oh, I got a master's degree in prison."
Yeah,
Well, I was in a level 4 custody yard. So all the programming that
you
people
didn't
talk
qualify.
about, 1, I didn't qualify, and 2, they don't have those in closed custody yards.
Right.
Like, we're lucky to get out for maximum of get out of our cell for a maximum of 3 hours a day, and the
Mhm.
truth is when those doors pop, whatever time they pop, the first time they pop that day, people are trying to kill each other.
Wow.
So, say we're supposed to be out for 3 days on a Tuesday for 3 hours on a Tuesday, within that first 20 minutes, someone might get stabbed or killed or hit or something,
And then
and
it's over.
yeah, and then we're
Oh,
right back
yeah.
on lockdown.
Yeah.
Oh, so they don't have programs in level 4 yards. So people are all big on this criminal justice reform. Well, when can we start getting that stuff in level 4 yards, right?
Yes. Because here's the thing, laws can change. I had the same problem. Okay, so I was sitting on this murder case, and when I got there, I had a piece of paper that said I had a decade until I was eligible for parole. So eligible does not mean you're going home because I'm an 85 percenter. So when I go to the parole board, I still have 2 years to walk on the yard. Okay. So I'm at this point where I'm like, well, let me see if I can get into some of these programs. And I would tell my caseworker, like, hey, laws could change. I want to be in this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always had a glimmer of hope. It just got bigger as time went on. And then like the more advanced computer classes, you had to be within 5 years of going home. So you burn them up because you could only take two. And I ended up taking, well, I'm a professional landscape technician. Am I going to go and take care of lawns? If I had to, I would.
Right.
But I had so much more potential that I couldn't do anything with because I didn't qualify.
Right.
So, Kelly, you're back. We're back here in this therapeutic community. You're starting to be honest with yourself and you're starting to realize that you want to do something different.
Yeah, so that was and I say this I told you this offline the other day.
Yeah.
This was the first time I was ever honest with myself,
Yeah.
and it was scary because being a man and being a gang member, you're
Hmm.
never supposed to show fear. We're really
Hmm.
prideful and we're arrogant and we're cocky and we think we're
Yeah.
tougher than everyone. We think we're better than everyone at everything,
Yeah.
and some of that arrogance translated really well for me to be able to get to where I'm at now and
Hmm.
not giving up on myself. But in this exact moment, I'm in groups and I'm just like scared. I'm so scared because here I am in my 30s. The only job I was able to get was washing dishes at this steakhouse, and I only got that job because another dude in the halfway house worked there.
Hmm.
And at that, half of my job was to bust the dishes. The owner's like, "Hey, bro, we don't like your aesthetic because I have tattoos all over my face and my head
Yeah.
and just everywhere. Um,
Uh-huh.
we don't want our customers looking at you.
Oh.
You're not aesthetically pleasing for our customers." So I wasn't even good enough to bust dishes for a few dollars an hour in my 30s. Um, but I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I'm in this halfway house and I'm getting, this therapy and I'm just experience all these weird emotions, like, or maybe
Yeah.
just
That
allowing
you
myself
suppressed.
to, yeah, just allowing myself to feel emotions for the first time. And I'm like, dude, I want to open a halfway house. So I go in the multi-purpose room, boom, Google, how do I open a halfway house? Oh, I can't.
Google's our friend.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Google's like, you can't because of your record.
Oh no, Google what? Go
Yeah.
ahead. I can't believe you, Google.
But there was a sober living home right across the street from the halfway house that I was
Mhm,
in. And I had struggled with not just addiction, but dealing drugs and substances throughout my entire adult life.
mhm.
I overdosed in a maximum security prison. Those of you who don't know, that's a non contact facility, meaning the only
Yeah.
way you can get drugs in is from a staff member.
Mhm. That's
Um,
a thing.
it's a real thing.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And so I was like, Google, how do you open a sober living home? And I realized, oh, being a convicted felon, I could open a sober living home.
Yeah.
And so I just get on the computer all day and I go on the Secretary of State, I create a LLC, I get my EIN, I create my policies and procedures and everything for this sober living home. And I think it was probably the first time I ever, like, outside of, like, the dumb stuff and, like,
Mhm.
the negative stuff that I ever believed in myself or had a dream, and I just held on to that, and I worked 2 full-time jobs, one during the day and one overnight, excuse me, for 3 years and 9 months straight until I was able to get my first home,
Oh
and
my gosh, and I love it. It's a home.
yeah,
People need that. They need that. That's a home. Kelly, this whole time, people are probably like, listen, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Look at what won't he do it? Won't he do it? So this whole time, 3 years, 9 months, working two jobs. Is this the first thing that since you've been out or that in your life you were able to follow through on and
and,
make come to fruition?
like, in a positive manner.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because, like, being a gang member, you're like, "Oh, I wanna go to a level 4 yard because that's where you earn your stripes. Oh, I wanna get sent to the SHU because that's where you get your respect." All these different things,
Yeah,
so I knew I it's weird, I never knew how capable I was until I accomplished this, and then
that's
I
right.
realized, like, "Dang, bro, I've been making my dreams come true forever," right? When I was in prison, I didn't have no visits or nothing, but I pulled a bitch and she brought me in the dough, a female guard, you know
Wow.
what I
Yeah, I get it.
and it's
I
like, "Oh, yeah, I've always been able to accomplish, I've just
mhm.
never I never knew how capable I actually was of accomplishing in a manner that won't get me sent back to prison."
You know what? I can relate because I used to tell people, like, I have, like, you call it arrogance, like charisma, dynamic, or whatever, being able to captivate people, being able to get things done. I like to look at it like this. That's what got us on the other side doing good because it's more like a different kind of stamina where you can do things. So I say this, I used to use my powers for bad. I
Right.
did. Like as good as I'm doing now, I put just as much effort into trying to get over. And my hustles were men, adult entertainment, you know what I'm saying? Like and I just thought I knew it all and I was super naive and I was young and I was going off my looks and I was going off of, all the things that I used to do bad and be good at it. When we turn that around, look at you. Now, how many houses do you have?
Yeah, so right now I have 4 houses. I'm in the
Wow.
process of closing on my 5th house. I close on that one
Nice.
next week, and I currently have 7 coaches that work for me as well.
Tell me the power of coaching.
So coaching, I think, has the biggest,
Impact.
yeah, ripple effect and
That's right.
impact because if you apply to come to well, one, we only have men's homes right now, but
Okay.
say a
I'm
gentleman called
disappointed, but go ahead. Yeah.
well, I mean, that's what I know how to work with, right?
True, true.
But say we have a gentleman who reaches out to me and he's not a fit for the homes, right?
Okay.
Well, now instead of me just having this, slam the door in his face, I can sign him up with one of my coaches and we can help him get employment. We can help him get whatever he needs. If that's resume writing, I have employer partners. So I can just say, like, yo, apply at this place and I got you a job. And they're not crappy jobs. It's not like no dock worker job or no construction.
Nice. It's
And
not
not to take
washing
away
dishes.
right, and not to take away from any of those because I did all that,
Yeah.
um, but it's not long term, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
And
where you
and you
wanna
know
be
what? It's
for
not
the
good
rest
for your
of your life.
self-esteem. It's not good for your
Right,
mental health sometimes. Like when
exactly,
that man, that really hurt my feelings for you that he says you're not aesthetically appealing to go get some plates off of a table because sometimes our past is on our face.
right,
You know what I'm saying? My past doesn't show on my face. I walk down the street, nobody would think, oh my God, she's been in prison 14 and a half years. That was working in my favor. So
right,
you had some things that were holding you back. And most importantly, that from 10 years old, well, from birth, you weren't set up correctly for success. However, you didn't give up on you. So I really wanted to bring you on, and I'm gonna let you talk because I get to talk, and that's why the name of my show is Syreta Talks.
yeah,
But yeah, I do get to talking, but I wanted to bring you on to show that stereotypical inmate that, oh my God, he's gonna get out, it's gonna get worse, it's gonna get worse, it's gonna get worse. You did this by yourself. So imagine how much more impact. Now, first of all, you've got the impact, but someone else like you could have done if they would have set you up for success. But I'm so glad you found your success. Now, you haven't even mentioned the name of your housing because that's important. People got to find you. People need to tap into your model. People need to help to fund programs like this. If this man is pulled, they always want to say, pull yourself up from your bootstraps and get the American dream. Your life was the American nightmare and you're making the American dream. So people need to invest in Kelly Mahana. They need to invest in authentic recovery. Tell us about the program, mission, values, all that.
Yeah, so authentic recovery homes really when it was a dream in my head, it was just like, look, man, this is going to be a space that if I needed somewhere to live, I would be comfortable in. It didn't look like an institution. It didn't feel like an institution. It felt like you were at home. You didn't wake up every day and look around and feel like I
I'm
fucked my
back in
life.
prison.
Yeah, or like you fucked your life up, right? And
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
have luxury homes in some of the best neighborhoods in Denver.
I love it. That's why you need programs for women too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I have artwork in the houses, like, my homes look like on MTV Cribs, they're that nice,
Wonderful. Do
and,
you have it on your website?
there's like, if you check it out from a desktop, you could see, like,
Well,
a
tell us where to go.
uh,
This is tell us where to go.
authenticrecoveryhomes.com.
Uh-huh.
I'm rebuilding it right now, so there's
Okay.
just that
Okay.
one and it
So
has to be
more to come. More to
yeah,
come. So
more
here's my challenge to anybody that's watching, anybody that's in Colorado, anybody that's in any state. You know that I was a woman who was formerly incarcerated. That's, a lot of the story that I tell. I like to showcase other things. But can we help Kelly? Can we somehow link up with Kelly so women in Colorado, because there's women in prison everywhere
yeah.
in the United States. And look at how awesome. They deserve a luxury home. They deserve all the same things. Now, Kelly, I know that's not your strong suit, but I'm just screaming, can somebody help him do the awesome things for women in Colorado? I might be biased. I might be a little partial. Now back to authentic recovery, because that's, oh my God, I'm just excited to hearing about it. I'm
Yeah,
excited. How many men are in your homes?
right now I have 44.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to tell us some of the things that you put into each home?
Yeah, so each one of our homes is over 3,000 square feet. So they're big, they're
Yeah.
spacious, they're palatial. They feel, you know, I deal with oftentimes I get guys saying like, "Wow, I don't deserve to live in a house this
Oh,
nice." And that's also a chance for me to get to tell them why. It's just a thing. Like,
yeah.
why
Yeah.
don't you deserve nice things? And I understand the mindset because coming up poor and never having anything, I never thought any of this stuff I never thought living outside of a cell was possible. I
Oh,
never thought living in a medium custody prison was possible. I was always like, I'm gonna die on a level 4 yard or maximum security yard.
oh,
But we have artwork in the homes. We do life skills classes. We do financial literacy
I
classes.
love it. Because
Um,
if you can't manage your money, then that's a setup for failure too. Go ahead.
Right, and then, like I said, all my coaches, they're all black and brown, they all come from places I come from.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I got to hire a dude who I was in the joint with for years, like, we were in the on the prison yard for years,
Yeah.
before I ever thought I was ever gonna get out or be anything,
Right.
and now he's on my squad, right? And it's all people who come from backgrounds and communities that I come from, and
Yeah.
that's intentional because I think we're so good. And when I say we, I don't mean you and I specifically,
Yeah.
I mean society as a whole
Hmm.
is so good at like saying, like, oh, Sarita's been to prison. She
Yes.
has no value. Kelly's been to
Yes.
prison. I have no value. Oh, they're never going to amount to anything. And that's just not the case you know?
No.
And so I got people out here who are doing really well, and
Yes.
not only are they doing well financially, but emotionally and mentally, and there's something to be said about even and oftentimes I don't wanna just paint it as a pretty picture, right?
Hmm.
Because we're overcoming generational curses, we're overcoming childhood trauma and all these different things that have never been addressed. So
Yeah.
a lot of the work isn't all roses every
No,
day.
not at
A lot
all.
of times it's like, "Ugh." and you're
Mhm.
like questioning yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you get to show people every day. And for the ones who it clicks for, man, they take it and run.
Oh man, 44 people's lives are being directly impacted by the work that you are doing, and many in the past, correct?
Those are just in the homes, not
Right now.
including our coaches. They have they have their own, tentacles that are
Caseload.
reaching out into the community. Yeah, they're caseloads of guys who aren't even in the homes, men and women. So for the coaches, we serve men and women.
I see how you try to throw that in.
No, it's
Okay.
true. It's true.
I'm still not satisfied. I'm not satisfied. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're so underrepresented. You know what I'm
Well, but you
saying?
gotta think in this state, we have 32 prisons, 31 of them are for men. There's only
Yeah.
one female prison.
22 in this state, and there's only two for us. So
Right.
come on. So there you go. That's one house right there. That's just one house dedicated to women. Now, I'm telling you, I will get on this show and talk about the things that are dear to my heart, which is you, which is me, which is the people that we're paving a way to come from behind, or that come behind us. I'm kicking that door open, and so are you.
Right.
How many years have you been operating your homes?
So October of 2022,
Oh my
like
gosh,
a
look at how
year and a half.
far. Look at how far. Oh, I'm so proud, Kelly. I'm so
Thank you.
proud to know people like you who 18 months, I just had my 18-month birthday. And look at, yeah, thank you. That is giving me, you know what I'm saying? Like the iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. So, is there anything you want to leave us with before we go? Leave us with something.
Yeah, dream big, never give up on yourself. Maybe if you never had a dream that you could even believe in,
Yeah,
find something. Find something that has value and meaning to you in your life and chase it down. And anyone who's telling you you can't, get away from them. I don't care if it's your mom, your sister, whoever. Stay away from them. Find people who are like, yeah, you can do that,
that's
and
right,
stick to
Kelly.
that and just
That,
work for it.
That's right. Authentic recovery homes. Tell us exactly where you're at in in Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. So we're in
Denver.
Denver.
Okay, well, I want to say this before we get off of here. It is my pleasure to have you on, and it like serious gratitude. I want you to come back. I want you to tell us more. Okay, and I want you to tell us how we can do it. Is that some of your? Is that a promise?
Definitely, I'm trying to show all my coaches how to get it so they can like
Yes.
I'm good. There's enough
Okay.
out here for everyone to eat and eat till they're full.
And guess what? Helping others along the way. I love it. So check out my TEDx. I appreciate you for tuning in. I just gave up on this light, and that's just fine. Kelly, you got to come back because I want to know how an average person in the community that hasn't been beat down by the system like us can still impact and change. And I feel like you have a great perspective on that. So let's say bye. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
No problem.